In fact, racing is really the first of 5 amazing topics that I want to talk to you about tonight. And that's because there are a few things that are closer to my heart, as Keith mentioned, than racing. This year for GM, Chevrolet and Cadillac was about as good as it gets for racing, as the cover of a non-Crane publication demonstrates, called Racer Magazine. And Dutch Randall tonight told me before this that he'd never seen it, and he wasn't sure what it was. And Dutch is a true car enthusiast, but and then he gave me the the circulation numbers and all that, and so I said, yeah, okay, I get it. But they did a great story on General Motors racing, which has been pretty devoid for a lot of years because of a lot of reasons. And we won manufacturers' trophies in IndyCar, NASCAR, American Le Mans Series, the Pirelli World Challenge GT, as well as drivers' trophies in all of those except NASCAR. And we've got 2 races in IndyCar that we'd like to win next year. One is right in our own backyard, and we've got a great weekend planned for Belle Isle with Roger Penske and Bud Denker and Chevrolet called the Duel in Detroit. And so it's a very exciting race that's going to happen, and I encourage you to come out and look at it. We had a great crowd last year. We really pushed the envelope to get that race on the calendar and get it in last year, but this year we've really got a great lineup, and it's going to be 2 full days of that, so we're looking forward to that. And we don't want to see another ad from Honda on USA Today, Chip. So we're aiming for that one in Indy to get those in line. The racing piece of this is really different than it has been in General Motors my whole career. In fact, we now have a program that Honda actually did a very good job of originally, which was cycling new young engineers into our company, putting them into major programs in racing, and taking them out to do things like the CTSV, the Corvette, the Camaro, and the rest of our production cars. So this is a formula that we just haven't had, and I'm very proud of Jim Campbell and the motorsports team for putting that together, organizing it, getting into IndyCar racing for the first time in many years, and winning the manufacturer's trophy, and doing that in Grand Am with a new Corvette. And Chip, I'd like to have you racing Corvettes too. All of that effort, education, and we hope success has really had a transfer of technology, and Dario talked about this a little bit too. And by the way, we studied the air intake on that turbo for the big tracks like Indy, so we know what you're doing with the single Borg-Warner turbo. And we're running two turbos on the Chevrolet, so we know. Just watch out here, buddy. So it does transfer nicely to the street. You're going to see some great charged engines come into both Cadillac, as you see on the ATS, and then some of our other engines that you might not know about, like the Cruise, like the 1.4 liter that we really do quite well with fuel economy and power with. So see that technology, a lot of the direct injection piece of this that we have learned from in IndyCar, where we inject the engine, which we've kept very secret, how we combust, the completeness of the burn, all of those things that you may not see on the Indy 500 as it runs, but find their way into our passenger cars. And the engineers that do that are going to be our youngest, brightest, best. And so that's a very exciting time for GM, because honestly, we haven't done that since I've been with the company, starting in 1986. So if I was an engineer graduating from college, boy, I would be all over that. So we do the same thing with eco-car and hybrids. There was really a lot of evidence of that on display at Kobo this week, which is the second topic I want to talk about this week. It's like what Charles Dickens wrote in the opening of A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. And it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going directly to heaven. We were all going the other way. And like Cliff Clavin, the wise mailman on Cheers, said, upon hearing that passage, he recited, boy, that Dickens guy really liked to cover his butt, didn't he? This week is that kind of paradox. It is exhausting. It is exhilarating. It is torturous. It is tremendous. We endure it, and yet we love it. And here in Detroit, we wouldn't trade it for any other amazing thing in any other city anywhere. By the way, I'll never complain about any Auto Show Media Week that begins with another trophy. The North American Car of the Year award was a great win for the ATS team and everyone at Cadillac. Thank you. And I was really personally thrilled because I spent a lot of time in some very dark days, as we all did on that team, both manufacturing, engineering, and design, debating on how to beat the best in the world in what is arguably the most competitive segment in the world during that development process. Of course, there was another amazing thing about this week at the show. Two words, Corvette. I told everyone who would listen to me Sunday, I think I pretty much lost my voice, and Monday, that this was the best Corvette ever made by a long, long shot. And that's saying something. There has been a lot of great cars, as we all know. The very first Corvette was introduced at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City exactly 60 years ago tomorrow, January 17th, 1953. And it's been the symbol of American engineering, styling, and capability ever since. So to take a car with that history, heritage, and performance, both on and off the track, and make it even better is no easy task. But our team did it. And when you drive it, I know you're going to agree with me. It will apply and appeal to a whole new generation of people. The Corvette purists, people like me who grew up with, what Corvette is, who really love cars and want to work for the company that made Corvette, will not recognize all elements of this Corvette, but the DNA is all Corvette. The technology, the value, the power to weight ratio, the performance is second to none. Let me tick off some of the accomplishments in the new Corvette Stingray, a name we don't toss around lightly, by the way, but this car is our technological tour de force. I tell you, the driving experience we've had on this car, with the first ones that have come off of the line in Bowling Green over the last few weeks is phenomenal. Estimated 450 horsepower and 450 foot-pounds of torque. And it's not estimated, by the way. We're going to do that, so I'll tell you that tonight. The new 7-speed manual transmission with active rev matching that anticipates the gear selections and matches engine speed for perfect shifts. What does this really do? Well, if you're familiar with heel towing, which is where I'll stand like this so you can visualize it, but if you look at your feet in a cockpit of a car, you take your right foot and you put it on the accelerator pedal, and you take the toe of that same foot, and you begin to brake to decelerate the car while your left foot pushes in the clutch, and you match engine rizz by blipping the throttle with your heel so that you don't upset the balance of the car. This is a very sophisticated driving technique, and everybody who is racing on a track will do this, and a lot of Corvette owners do it as well, and owners of performance cars. This car actually anticipates what you're going to do with that downshift, blips the throttle, makes you feel like a pro. It's kind of hard to undo after a while, but once you get how to undo it and you let the car take control of it, it's absolutely one of the most brilliant things I've driven in a car. 5-position drive mode selector that really tailors 12 different elements of the car to your individual driving taste. And I'm talking about things as sophisticated as exhaust note. I'm talking about things like steering, automatic transmission calibrations, all kinds of things, 12 different things. Everything from an eco mode in a Corvette to a full-blown track performance car. That drive mode selector is a godsend on the center console. We drove the cars in driving rain in Bowling Green a couple weeks ago, the first 5 that came off the line. I can tell you that you can drive this car faster with more confidence in any weather condition. We saw everything from 30 degrees to sunny to dry to rain to a little bit of snow, all as we drove through Kentucky. In this car, you can drive fast. So it was very impressive. The calibration is almost done. We're not quite there. But those subtle elements of the car changed the car dramatically. So it was like driving 5 different Corvettes. The all-new 6.2-liter Gen 5 V8 combines, for the first time, three very sophisticated technologies for Corvette. The first time Corvette has used active cylinder deactivation, continuously variable valve timing, and direct injection all at once. As we know, direct injection will give you more power with better fuel economy because of the efficiency of the burn. The variable valve timing is very efficient in terms of how it opens and closes everything. And finally, the cylinder activation, which is very tough to do in a rear-wheel drive transaxle type car, has been done in a way that gets great fuel economy but doesn't trade off the pleasability of the noise and vibration piece of it. A lighter, stiffer structure with advanced technology, carbon fiber. We are bringing carbon fiber to the masses on this, and I can tell you, if you can afford to buy a Corvette today, you're going to be able to buy this Corvette tomorrow. This car, everybody said, well, this is the most expensive, most exotic Corvette. No, Stingray is the base Corvette. What you see in the picture is the base Corvette, and carbon fiber is now brought into mass production in Bowling Green for the Corvette. And that is blended with an all aluminum structure. The materials, if you saw this on display in Cobo Hall, it shows joining techniques that I think have never been seen in mass production again in the auto industry. So very carefully done, an incredible technical achievement, as well as a perfect 50-50 weight balance, a beautiful new interior. We've lived with the Corvette interior long enough, and the seats, and it was beautiful when it was done, but this car, as you can see in the picture here, is something very special. Very special from a material standpoint, incredibly driver-oriented, obviously here, and a lot of reconfigurable displays in it, including my favorite, which is a friction circle. And those engineers in the audience will know what a friction circle really is. It displays it, it gives you the number of G's, along with how far you are away from the friction circle, where you'll begin to see slip at the tire and wheel. So these are things you learn in school, but you put it up on the screen and you can actually drive the car to that friction circle very carefully and actually become much more accomplished driver. Believe me, I was considering only talking about the Corvette tonight and calling my speech 5 amazing things about Corvette, but I couldn't settle on just 5. This car is very special to all of us at GM, but especially to me. I met my wife driving a 1969 427 Tri-Power 400 horse, and unfortunately it was an automatic, but I couldn't afford the 435 horse manual. It was a lot more money, but it was a silver car. It was a survivor. I worked second shift at Orion launching body shops when I met her, and we had an awful lot of fun in that car until we decided to get married a year later and have kids. That was the end of that car. Moving on, yeah, as with many people, I'm quite sure. Moving on, the 4th trending theme also played a part in the show this week. And it's another urban myth that I get, frankly, tired of hearing people write about, and that is this: the electric car is not dead. That's despite what you might hear, despite what you might read about Americans not being ready for it, or about it being under attack by local governments retracting incentives for it. You read about cities like Los Angeles canceling free parking for electric vehicles, or you read about states like Washington instituting a $100 registration fee for electric cars. Funny thing about the authorities, though, when they think they're missing out on lost fees and revenues from one place, they will find them from another. Or you hear pundits criticizing slow sales of electric vehicles, and you might think, see, the electric car is a failure. It's dead on arrival. You might think that, you'd be dead wrong. We're talking about a massive transformation that we're undergoing as an industry, as a nation, and it's really about transformation that takes time. It takes a long time to change an industry, to change habits, and to change a way of life. I believe, and we believe at GM, that the public will accept and embrace electric vehicles. In fact, quite a few people already have. And the rest of them will come around when technology advances electric vehicles to the point where they offer comparable performance at comparable prices. We will get there. We will see the day when we have an affordable electric car that offers 300 miles of range with all the comfort and utility of a conventional vehicle. In the meantime, we have that one that offers the kind of advantage with the extended range and the volt. which, by the way, tripled its sales last year versus 2011, and whose owners continue to be the happiest customers on the planet, happier than Porsche 911 buyers. We couldn't be happier with that, or with the Volt itself, with what it means to this company and what it did last year, despite the unprecedented political beatdown it took over and over and over again. It's going to sell even more, and the next generation will be even better. And of course, this week we added the ELR, an extended range electric vehicle for Cadillac, the only full-line luxury maker to offer one. This car is in a class by itself. Further proof of our commitment to the electric extended range lineup, electric vehicles, and our advanced technology. This car has quite a bit different performance than the Volt does. We'll talk about that here in the next few weeks as we get ready to launch the car. Of course, it has a different price tag. It's got a lot of different technology, different package, and 2 doors. And it was voted as Eyes on Design, Best Design in Show this week. This is a very big design statement for us. It's gorgeous. It is quite different than some of the other cars that are priced in the $100,000 range. The Fiskars, the Teslas, those are very beautiful cars as well, but this makes a massive statement around the capability of what Detroit and Cadillac can do. People will instantly recognize it as a Cadillac. You can see that. It is very distinctive, and it is very true to the concept. In fact, I got an email from someone today that was complaining about the radius on the door handle cutout here being different than the concept car. Said I'm okay with that. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Inside, it'll have everything you expect in a Cadillac, obviously here, luxury, comfort, sophistication in our new Q system. The Q system will be tailored for the extended range piece of this, much like some of the displays in the Volt, but much more elegant, much more configurable, and a lot more information. It also has a lot of features in it, like safety seat alert that we introduced on the XTS and ATS, adaptive cruise control, cross-traffic alert, and Regen on Demand, which is very progressive. If you don't know what that is, there's 2 paddle shifters on the back side of the steering wheel, and you can, on demand, ask for regen of the battery on decel. Pretty neat. So you don't rely on a control system in the car to do it. It's very driver-oriented, it's very fun. We're going to dial a lot of fun into our products. Production of the ELR should begin in the 4th quarter, and we expect the car to do very well because of its highly advanced technology, because of its stunning beauty. Those 2 things, I believe, and being voted Eyes on Design, Best Design in the show is a great validation of that. It brings me to my 5th and final point that I'd like to mention, and something also evident in Kobo this week, and that is the current state of General Motors and the other domestics in the auto industry as a whole. I think that, much like the electric vehicle, a lot of people have written obituaries far too early. This industry moved almost 15 million vehicles in 2012. That's more than most people expected, and a lot sooner than they expected. And it's great news for everybody in the room and everybody in this country. Automakers anchor an industry that supports 8 million US jobs, pays $500 billion in wages, and generates $70 billion in personal tax revenue. The auto industry is America's largest exporter, among its largest consumers of steel, rubber, glass, and semiconductors, and among its largest investors in R&D. GM, Chrysler, and Ford employ 2 out of every 3 auto workers in the US, and base more employees in the US than the competition by a factor of 8. For our part, GM has announced North American facility investment of over $10.2 billion since July of 2009, creating or retaining more than 26,500 jobs. And we are poised to announce another $1.5 billion or so in North American investments this year. So stay tuned. Thank you. Even during the darkest days of 2008 and 2009, with SARS plummeting to lows not seen in many ages, we knew that if we could just hang on, the pent-up demand would bring the market back. We knew we had to put ourselves into a position to capitalize on that demand. It was tough to stay focused on that goal while we were canceling or delaying our product programs and slashing costs to save money. But today, our house is in order. By the end of this year, we'll have replaced 70% of our U.S. lineup. By the middle of next year, we'll have the freshest showrooms and dealers in the business. And we're continuing to invest about $8 billion a year in product development to keep those showrooms filled with still more new cars, trucks, and crossovers. The hole we experienced in bankruptcy will be erased. Our recent track record proves that this kind of continuous investment in the product pays off. Today, we have the highest average transaction prices among full-line automakers in the industry. Our average transaction prices have increased at an annual rate of 4.1% since 2008 versus 2.85% for the rest of the industry. Meanwhile, our incentives have declined from the highest in the industry in the early to mid-2000s and are now consistently right on average in the industry. For the most part, people are buying our vehicles because they want great vehicles, not because there's a gift basket full of cash on the hood. That's helped drive continued and sustained profitability for us here at GM North America, profits that we have taken and reinvested back into the vehicles that we are launching that you see at Cobo, and this is only the beginning. And to me, that is the very core of what is today's General Motors.